Carlos Nelson with What's Up Kansas City, and today we have one of our Kansas City School Board members on. Who do we have here?
I'm Mark Wasserstrom, representing Subdistrict 5.
Hey Mark, let's talk about what's going on with the KC School District. Give us an update. The last time you were on the show, you were running for your position and you was able to acquire it. Give our audience an update on what's going on in the Kansas City School District.
The underlying mission of Kansas City Public Schools from before I even thought about running was to regain accreditation. The school district was founded shortly after the Civil War in, I believe, 1868 or so. We've been accredited for right around 150 years, and then we lost accreditation. And it's been a long time since we have been trying to get it back. So whatever else is going on, that is the goal of the schools, to educate our young scholars, to give these kids a chance to make something of their life, and the foundation on which these children hope to build the life that we want for them and they want for themselves is a good, solid education. They have not been getting it in the Kansas City public schools.
Elaborate on that. You're on the board. How do you reach that conclusion?
Well, there's two bases that are pretty transparent. Now, we've been hiring expert group after expert group. We had 3 surveys done this last year, one by our in-house PhD who was in charge of that, and then we had 2 outside groups that we brought in.
Consultants?
Consultants.
What kind of money are y'all paying now?
It gives me a headache to think about it, too much. The best of the 3 studies was the one that Mike Reynolds, our own expert, put together. It was more nuanced, more in-depth, and really asked the right questions. And it put its finger on some painful issues.
Like what? I'm saying
bullying. Like, there's 2 things about the schools. We want the kids to get a good education and we want them to feel safe. Not feel safe, we want them to be safe. When you get to middle school, the little kids aren't having the problems. It's once you get to middle schools and the hormones start raging. It happens with all teenagers around the world, but it happens here in Kansas City as well. And Mike Reynolds in his survey had a preponderance of the kids in the Kansas City School District say that they were afraid of bullying.
Bullying?
Bullying, and that should not happen. If nothing else, whether we get a Einstein or we get somebody that just goes out and makes a simple living, they ought to at least feel safe when they leave their home and they go to school.
This program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.
Some of the other major issues, let's keep it moving on the fast track. What have y'all been initiated? What are some of the things that you've passed to move the school system forward? What are some of the positive things that you see happening, and what are some of the negative things that you would like to comment on?
The most positive thing, the administration has been working very, very diligently. The teachers, as much as anybody, have been bearing the burden of trying to come up with programs to get tutoring and to get the parents of the kids involved. We've been doing pioneering work.
On a 1 to 10, how do you see that progressing?
Well, the numbers bear out that we are progressing, but we're not progressing very fast.
I'm saying on a 1 to 10, what do you see? So that my audience, I keep things real clear cut, sports and everything. I'll be like on a 1 to 10, where are we at on this issue?
5.
5. Is it 5 plus? We're trying to get there, but we're moving slow.
5 plus. And I want to give credit where credit's due. We are narrowing the gap between Kansas City and the rest of Missouri. The whole thing is we used to be talking about how we're approaching accreditation. And we thought we had it until it turned out that we had falsified some of the statistics that we sent in. We just fudged the data intentionally, and we got caught. So that took
When did
away
that take place? So if you
a year ago.
before you got on.
Well, the fudging
Right.
happened during each of the 2 years before Bedell came here.
All right, so not on y'all's watch.
And to give Dr. Bedell credit, his administration, after exhaustive study, has been absolutely clean on the attendance issue. The issue that got vetted and investigated till the cows came home has been student attendance, because there's a 140-point system to.
It's bean counters and all amounts to economics. How many kids are being served and what the state is.
Well, they also have academic tests.
Yeah, well.
But the test is just part of it. It's how many kids stick around until graduation. It measures improvement. So it's not just absolute, but if the kids were very bad and then they get to be medium, or they were medium and they get to be outstanding, then there's extra points given for quantum leaps.
How do you feel that the school district and the board is looking at our frontline teachers? Do you think they're being compensated and being appreciated the way they need to be under the circumstances?
Well, if you're 49th or 48th out of 50 states, how well do we stack up in comparison with other states? Now, my son is in his first year of teaching. He graduated the University of Missouri at Columbia 4 years ago. He's a professional musician on board an ocean cruiser until the cruise industry shut down. But he had his teaching certificate. He contacted Kansas City and he wrote 40 schools in Texas. And he is seriously considering teaching at a school on 27th Street. That would have paid him a little over $25,000. Texas called him at the last minute. He'd been turned down, but then a teacher resigned at the 11th hour. And they said, if you could make do with $54,000 plus benefits for your first year of teaching with a bachelor's degree, no master's degree, no advanced training, no experience teaching, we'll start you out at a meager $54,000. He was so eager to get down there, he took my car, and I had to walk over to your studios because I don't have a car now.
Tell me this, what is the starting salary here, or do you know, off the top of your head?
I think the average in Missouri is about $25,000. It may be 26 or 27. It's down low.
Tell me this, how are you gelling with your fellow board members? How have you been able to try to come together on issues that are relating our, what has that been like?
Well, we have a very large administrative staff. And the administrative staff is led by our chief operating officer, Linda Quinley, who is one of the sharpest numbers people.
Number cruncher.
She's one of the best. We got her from Sedalia, and she outlines a program that's detailed and well studied, and I think everybody on the board respects her, and if she gets behind the program and recommends it, we're on board. We'll ask some questions, but
Are you able? I'm saying, are you able to create coalitions to get some things passed with your fellow board members, or what?
That's not really how it works.
Well, tell our audience how it works.
Well, the way it works is that board members are not allowed to make any motions at meetings. We have 2 board meetings a month. One is to review our progress on our priorities, and then the other one is a business meeting. And the agenda for meetings is set before we walk into the
Who
meeting.
sets that?
Well, the superintendent, Dr. Bedell, meets with 3 officers. Now, that's a special reason why it's the number 3. We have 7 people on the board, and if you have more than 3, you have to invite the public. They want these to be quiet meetings where they work out what's going to happen behind closed doors.
So they have 3 board members, and the superintendent decides what the agenda is going to be?
That's it. And
Are they the same 3 all the time?
The president, Patty Mansur, a vice president, and a treasurer.
Who's the vice president?
Nate Hogan. He's one of the new board members, and he's studying day and night to try to learn as much.
And who's the other board members? So that our people know who's pulling the strings.
Manny Abarca takes the reports prepared by Linda Quinley, and he presents the reports as treasurer to everybody. But, you know, Linda Quinley is, like I say, a superb number cruncher. And she
What are some of the success stories that you would like to say that you're proud of that have taken place on your watch?
We got a new football field at Northeast. I think I'd heard that some kids would twist their ankles and sprain their legs just running up and down the old field. And now we have a world-class brand new field thanks to one of the graduates who's a professional football player that kicked in $100,000 out of his own pocket. He got the NFL to throw in $1 million. The school district came up with some money, and the kids at Northeast have a wonderful
One thing I will say, I had this conversation yesterday or day before yesterday, that under Bedell's leadership, at least our schools now all basically have their own football stadiums or fields.
That's important. We have good athletes in Kansas City.
I know Lincoln Prep, man. That's where I started my company. I think I told you that. No field. You can't play home games. That takes away from that high school experience. And I'm so glad that the administration, hopefully the board sees it the same way, that it's more to high school than just your economic system. The whole atmosphere, the sports, the academics, the other things that go with high school. So is that the only positive thing that you see, that we got the stadiums? What other positive things that you?
Far and away, the most wrenching event to happen during my watch has been the COVID virus and the reaction of just getting the kids fed. You know, some kids depend on the schools to get their food and nutrition. If they stayed home and didn't have any help from the school, they'd go hungry. So I think that everybody on the board feels very good about the aggressive program of continuing to supply food and distributing food. It doesn't get written about, but it's as important as anything else.
All right, under the covert, and I have concerns about this, and I've mentioned this. The reason you really walked over here to the studio is because you had the puck, I think it's the internet, and we were having problems with the connections.
Well, it breaks my heart. The state of Missouri, going back several years, made a decision to put together online learning. They have worked in conjunction with a half dozen to a dozen national companies to put together 300 entire courses, semester-long courses, everything from statistics to psychology to professional photography, as well as German, French, whatever you can imagine. If it's an academic discipline, we have a world-class course with world-class teachers, with questions and discussion modules, all laid out. All the kid has to do is take a computer. Around the country, the biggest criticism of online education or virtual learning has been that it's unfair. It's not, there's no equity because some kids don't have computers. Kansas City has given every student not only a computer, but internet access. We have what's called a hotspot. So if the family doesn't have an internet provider servicing the home, there's, for something like $70 a month, we have a little gizmo you plug into the wall and it creates.
Do they have to pay for it, or does the school district pay?
It's free to the kids.
All right.
The school district has money.
How do you see that playing out? Is that working for our students?
Well, you know, it wasn't really an issue until along about March when we had to stop the classroom work. And at that time, teachers started assigning work to be done on computers. And it turned out that 30% of the computers were missing. So the folks, the staff, the IT department, the computer department at the Board of Education took their fancy equipment to do some investigation. And a lot of our Kansas City computers ended up in Los Angeles, California. Now, I don't know how they got there, but I'll tell you one thing, the folks downtown at the Board of Education don't know either.
It didn't meet the press. It didn't come out in the press, to my knowledge.
Well, the thing is, we're in the process of telling all the kids that had computers, they have to bring them in because we have to check them out. Well, we want to just take a hard count about how many we have and how many we're missing. If we issue, and we have replacement, we bought a big truckload of computers, so all the kids, we have enough computers, but we're saying to the parents, why don't you buy insurance on the computers? Well, the problem, not all the parents have the extra money to afford insurance.
Right.
But these computers cost us over $500. You know, you have to buy the computer and the hotspot. There's a big investment.
So, do you have any other concerns as it relates to what's going on with the Kansas City School District in your position that you hold?
Yes. The biggest problem that we have not addressed has been the ongoing maintenance of our buildings. You know, we did a lot of building 30 years ago. And that was while the court was supervising. The court said, thou shalt take care of the buildings. You
Arthur Benson.
That's right. Give them some good buildings. And we did. But nobody ever bothered taking care of the buildings since then. The only number that Dr. Bedell has given us, about a year and a half ago, he mentioned that we needed about $450 million. He said that his goal was to have a bond issue of $500 million to do repair that should have been done all the way along. So, I was advocating that we ought to start now. We were supposed to get a windfall, and we did pick up about $20 million extra off of the real estate taxes on the reassessment. And I said, well, that's great. We have all of this deferred maintenance, and here we have some extra money. Let's start using that to a good use and fix up the buildings. Some of the ceilings need fixing. If a ceiling isn't sound, water starts coming in, and that can undermine the structural integrity of the entire building.
Do you have any other concerns? Because we're going to wrap this up shortly, that you would like to voice?
Well, I think we all have to work together. And one of the things that distresses me more than anything else is I learned a new word when I joined the school board.
And what was that?
Super segregated. Now, Kansas City's always been segregated, but Kansas City now is super segregated. And it's just a statistic that when it's so imbalanced that there's not enough of the other group to be meaningful, then it becomes a super segregated system. There's 90% Afro-American and Hispanic in our system, 10% white. So you can spread the 10% white around any way you want, and there's not enough to end up with an integrated school system.
And let me say this, in this upcoming election, Cascade Media Group is definitely going to be having interviews and talking about people from the diaspora getting some good quality candidates to run for our district, because I would think that the district is about 65 or 70% minority, or something to that effect. And with that narrowed down board to 7 seats, I don't think that we're getting the representation that we need to be getting. And I don't think that we were prepared when this last election. I don't think my community as a whole knew that they were downsizing the boards across Missouri from 9 to 7 members. And
well, be careful how you phrase it.
All right.
It was not downsizing across Missouri. It was downsizing Kansas City.
Well, see, it was my understanding.
Kansas City.
They were saying that took place across the board. That's the information I got.
Well, the general pattern throughout Missouri has been a 7-member board. Kansas City, for historical reasons, was a 9-person board. But 2 things happened this last election. First, they changed from 9 to 7. And how was the change done? They cut out 1 at-large representative. So instead of having 3 at-large members, we now have 2 at-large members. And instead of having 6 subdistricts, we now have 5 subdistricts. Now, if one wants to look and see what the practical impact was, you can compare the last board and the composition of the last board to the current board. The last board, by my count, on racial lines would be a 6-3 split, and the current board is 4-2-1. Manny Abarca is Hispanic. We have 2 black members.
Who are the black members?
Marvea Jones,
Right.
Dr. Marvea Jones, PhD.
Right, she was on the show.
She's a very important young leader with violence and gun violence here in Kansas City, and she has a very strong academic background in mass psychology and how to work on public health issues. She's a very strong contributing member to our school board. And we have Nate Hogan, who's had a midlife change in career. He had set up a new division of the Cerner Corporation, and now he's back in school working on an advanced degree. And so highly productive and highly motivated young man, and a very important member of our school board.
In closing, what would you have some closing comments for our audience?
We need some people from the community. We need some community leaders to run for the Kansas City School Board. We need people that have helped shape the community in the past, because it's the schools that will help shape our community into the future. You know, we don't need people to just rubber stamp whatever some PhDs come up with. We want people that reflect the hopes and desires and prayers of our entire community. And so I hope that in the listening audience, there's some people that say, yes, we'll get busy, we'll put in the time, we'll go to the meetings, because we want to help these kids get a wonderful education so they can have a better life.
Hey, excellent. And to our audience in closing, as we say in all our programs, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. It's a pleasure having you on.
Thanks, Carlos.
All right.
This program is brought to you by Dye Electric LLC, Energy in Motion.